Greetings. Peace. I know you all can see me. I'm sure you can. Um, I am Maksha, and I want to welcome you into our, midday motivation space. Today we just, we in the space. Just wanted to greet everyone. If you are coming in, that's a good thing. If you're taking a quick break from the everyday, um, activities. That's a good thing. Uh, just want to hold off a little and wait for a few more people to enter the space. And if you can hear me as soon as you get on, if you can't hear me, just let me know. I can't see you, but I can see your comments in the chat. So just let me know if you can definitely hear me. I actually wanted to play something. I always want to play something. Um, and I'm going to choose something interesting today, too. I like reggae music, so I'll play a little bit of that. Um, just a tiny bit. I actually like Jan Nine's music, so maybe I can find something from her. I could play just a little bit of it. Jan Nine is I'm not sure where she is now, but I know um, she's a Jamaican artist, reggae artist to be exact. And I really like her music, nice and easy, smooth. Another artist that I really enjoy is Tariana Tank and the Bang. Maybe I'll play some Tank and the Bangers right now. I kind of like that one. So maybe you let me know if you can hear it. Greetings, Naya. Peace. How are you? Welcome into the space. Shalom, Sister Manira. Shalom. Thank you for being in the space. So I am digging some Tariana Tank and the Bangers. That's I don't know. I just felt like playing that a little bit. The song is "Human" by Tank and the Bangers. Um, very interesting group. I like their music, their vibes. So today we're going to jump into just paying attention to food waste a little bit. And I have to remember to look in the camera. I that the human brain contains over 100 billion nerve cells. So even if your little nephew is acting like he vacations in hell, you should play with him. I'm sure your attention. All right. That was a little bit of Tank and the Bangers. I don't want to play too much. And then they banned me from YouTube. But you can find her music, Tank and the Bangers. And the piece that I was playing is called Human. So, because today is labeled Earth Day, we're going to talk just a little bit about, how we could reduce our own contribution to food waste, right? And you're probably saying, well, why? Why is that even a thing? Why does it even matter? You know, food waste is, and for me, paying attention to onile, which is another term or another word for earth, paying attention to earth, paying attention to how we engage in our daily lives and how that may affect earth is really important. And I say that because that's what we're being sustained on right now. So thinking about our relationship to earth and how the things that we do affects our natural environment or the environment around us is, you know sometimes you can't help because of where you live. If you're living in the confines of an apartment, it makes food waste is very difficult to there are things that you can do, but there are certain things that become very difficult because it's hard to compost, right? You probably hear a lot of people talk about composting and that being a new trend, you know it's not a trend. It's such a, efficient way of utilizing some of the foods that we don't use, things that we would want to throw away, or naturally feel like there aren't things that we want to consume or put in our bodies. And I'm talking about food specifically, or things that are biodegradable. But if you're in an apartment, that's not necessarily going to be an option. And you may be in a home as well, but depending on the location of your home, that may not be possible. But there are, during spring, summer, and the early fall months, there are some city parks and city gardens specifically where you can actually bring your items to their compost. So those are always helpful, and it doesn't take more than a quick Google search to find one in your neighborhood to kind of support what you are doing or what you're going to be doing from today on when it comes to, just like paying attention to food waste, right? And you're probably saying, well, why food waste? Why is that such an important thing? So when food actually begins to the rotting process, or be starts to deteriorate, it actually produces methane, right? Or methane, whichever you want to. So that gas actually affects the environment. And it's we probably know of things like carbon dioxide, and some of the other very harmful gases, without realizing that the truth is methane can be about 25 times as potent as CO2. So that's the reason why I'm making the connection with food, because when food when food degrades, or when food begins to break down, it actually, and that's food, I'm talking about food in general, and that's specifically food that we trash, and that trash gets mixed in with everything else. So that gas is kind of dangerous, for the environment, and it has been known to affect climate change, right? So today we're just going to quickly talk about some of the things that we could do if you are doing anything to support or aid when it comes to food waste, and just fixing your methane footprint, not necessarily a carbon footprint, on the planet. You could put it in the chat and share it with us. um but and there are a couple of states that require a shift and a change between now and 2022. They have laws put in place where they will be putting programs and so on in place to ensure that a lot of the food. Sorry, I just shaked for a while. My whole screen just, yeah, almost fell over. um, they're going to require 50% or more of foods that would normally be thrown away. And I'm talking specifically too about um, food companies that throw away really food that's good, but they throw it away because they don't appear to be perfect, and these are foods that are not pleasing to customers or those who are selecting food or fresh fruit, right? So they throw them away. And it's interesting, there are a couple of companies, one company that I actually started purchasing from, and what they do is they rescue they call it rescuing. They rescue some of those foods, and they sell them. Right? So and so you can get subscription boxes. What I mean prescription subscription boxes, that can it helps. I think it helps because rather than that food going to waste and being thrown away, you're actually utilizing it. And many of them look strange. They have strange shapes. They're oblong instead of being round. But that's normal, right? That's normal. When you begin to augment the way fruit comes out or the way fruit looks consistently in terms of color and shape and shade, then you have to ask questions about it. I think it's quite normal for fruit and food to, you know, have variations in the way they shape, right? Of course, a tomato shouldn't look like a square, but you know, when they have simple, you know, dents and sometimes they grow with I don't know how you call it, like blemishes and so on embedded in the skin. Many times these are things that they do not utilize. Misfit is one company that sells fruit and food. They call them the Misfit Foods, I guess. But those are things that you can look into to support the efforts to reduce food waste, right? But for you in your kitchen and at home, there are other things that you can do. I know a lot of people who, and I'm telling you, I know people who do this. They have leftovers and they actually consider it old food. And okay, we could have conversations about the biblical references of food staying beyond a certain amount of time, right? Because there are stories in the Bible that talk about saving food beyond that time, and the food actually had worms. But then let's talk. Let's we have to consider, you know, the time period and what was available to preserve food at that time period. There wasn't really anything. um so for, you know, in this time, I won't consider leftovers old food, but you know, that's something we could consider. What are we going to do with it? You could create stock with leftovers, or you can create a soup or some sort of stew with leftovers. I know a lot of people who consider these things old food and they'll throw it away. Or and after throwing it away, they'll go to the grocery store and proceed to purchase vegetable stock or whatever stock it is that they wish to purchase in a box, right? Or in some sort of package container rather than creating their own. And vegetable stock is nothing more than um, cooked down seasonings, right? Lots of onions, sometimes lots of vegetables, vegetable tips and vegetable edges and bits and so on. Those things can be utilized. Um, Thinking of just leftover bread, if you are a person who consumes bread, that's something that you can do. Something, sorry, that you can do is take that bread and dry it out, and you can use it to create what's called breadcrumbs, right? I know many people purchase panko. I have no idea what it is, but I think panko is a very popular breadcrumb. I don't know if it's a brand or option. I just know I've heard it because my aunt is a chef. She food preps. She's not vegan, but she has this stuff all over the place, and utilizes a lot of it. This is something that you could use your own bread scraps or leftover breads to do to make crumbs, and you could use it to, you know, for those of you who are moving through, whether you're moving through a detox now or you're fasting, it's Ramadan, you can um, bake it, dry it, and then even freeze it, and or freeze the bread and then take it down and bake it and dry it so that you can use it later on after your month is up. Um, Another thing I thought about was things like stems, right? Stems from foods and so on. There's certain things you can't utilize, right? There's certain things that you just can't use. And if you can't use it, again, I want to suggest you start composting. I am not composting, so um, it is an option for you if you are in a space where you have a backyard, or maybe you have a garage where you can utilize, and you know, you'll have to go through the process of finding the appropriate containers and so on to support you and assist you. There are videos online you can use to support you to do that. But again, there are gardens in the city. There are gardens in the city that are that help people, right? They'll utilize all of your old scraps. So all you have to do is just bring it there. And you can kind of look those up as well on your own. But back to the stems and all of like broccoli stems, for example, and even tips and edges of carrots. Sometimes we peel carrots and take off the peelings. That drives me crazy because okay, there's a hack before you get to utilizing those stems and the peels, right? Making sure that you soak your veggies will help to make sure that the skin of the veggies, the root vegetables, the fruits and so on that you use, it'll help to make sure that they're clean. And if they're that clean, then it means that, and you've washed them off, soaking them in some vinegar and baking soda, excellent. That's a hack I'm sure everyone knows. Um, it makes it easy for you to utilize those peels. So if you do want to peel, take the peels and create a vegetable stock with them. Take the peels and utilize the peels in a salad. Marinate them. Take those tidbits, those ends of the beet, ends of the carrots, things like that, the broccoli stems, chop them up small and put them in a marinade, sit them in the fridge for a couple days, and before you know it, they're soft and they can be utilized. It's all good food. Um, I think about I love to use things like lemons and all sorts of citrus and so on. But most times when we use them, we kind of just cut them in half and juice them, and we throw away the tops. It is it is it is very bitter. They can be bitter, but they can be juiced, right? And the truth is, even when you juice, you still end up with something that you have to throw away. So sometimes it's really hard. You're put in a spot because how do you eat it? But you can definitely juice citrus rinds and even the pulp of the citrus and include it in your juices. You can take the whole rind of the lemons or the citrus, whatever it is you're using. Grapefruits are really good, and you can sit them in a little bit of water with maybe vinegar and create a floor wash. All right. You can sit them in a little bit of distilled alcohol, and what that will do is that will help to support you. All right. Just give me 1 second, please. Naya says, that's my issue. What to do with things after I've made or juices? So I've made it into cleaning products, plant fertilizer, or given some away. Yeah. Sometimes giving them away. I don't know. What do you mean giving some away? Fertilizer, I'm not sure. Sometimes citrus can be acidic to the soil. So I'm not sure because I'm not a gardener or a planter. If anyone can jump in and share what, how citrus affects soil. I'm not sure how citrus affects soil. Um, and some plants may benefit from it as well as some others may not, so I don't know. um but it's interesting you mentioned fertilizer because in the Caribbean, the way we compost, I mean, we don't necessarily have compost bins. You always have a section in the backyard that's, a section that's dug up in the soil, and that's your quote unquote compost area. So all of the food scraps and so on, lemon peels included, they all would go into that compost pile, and that's pretty much what's left there to rot over time. after a while, it becomes what we call fertilizer. And so that's mixed in with the soil that's around it, and it gets redistributed to some of the other plants and so on in the yard. So for those of us who have that option, because we have yard space, we have a backyard, utilize it for that. Um, Naya says it depends on what I've juiced or used. I give things away only if people tell me they can use it for from our conversation. Right. Well, that's good. It's interesting you say that because um a couple of years ago I actually lazed with someone. We did a collab in a sense, I guess you could say. So we were juicing together. We were doing our I have a juice fast called the protocol calls Reset Your Mind. And so what we were doing was that protocol. It was a bunch of us actually. And we were in Brooklyn at the time. And they had a garden and they were planting callaloo in the garden at that time. And so every time I would juice, I would save all of the scraps from the juice from the juicing that I would do every 2 or 3 days, and I would send it over, and they would utilize it in the compost and utilize it as fertilizer. So that's a great idea. Liaising with someone who can utilize it to um, as fertilizer in their own gardens, because you may not have access to a garden, but you may know someone who does. So overripe fruit, things like fruit that's, for example, I don't know if any of you have ever eaten overripe bananas, but they're not nice at all. Nobody wants them. And we may be tempted to throw them away. And I guess the conversation today is kind of like, don't throw them away. Freeze them and use them as a sweet base for the next smoothie or the next shake that you make. Kiwi. Kiwi is horrible when it's overripe, right? I don't know if you all have ever had them or even ever smelled it. Sometimes overripe fruit smells really bad, but it's rotting. That's what's happening. That's the reality. Reality check. That's what's happening. But if you have overripe fruit, that's something you can do is take that overripe fruit and freeze it and utilize it to sweeten your next shake or your next smoothie. You can use them for baking if you like making pastries or jams, even. I've never had a banana jam, but you can use things like kiwi to make a fruit preserve, right? So you see how we're still utilizing all of items that you may have just thrown out without a thought before. And I know we all don't have that much time in the kitchen to be able to be tinkering and so on and so forth. So as Naya said, find someone who enjoys tinkering and just say, like, I have 6 bunches of bananas that are, like overripe. Bake some banana bread or something. Um, Deidre says you can bake with them. I've done that. Yes. Overripe bananas can be used for baking and so on. So that's those are some of the ideas I have. And if you all have ideas, thank you, Naya, for sharing yours and putting it in the chat. Jump in and put them in the chat. The last thing I wanted to talk about was just our use of plastics. Recently I started back using some of those items like plastic Ziploc bags, and I have never really utilized those a lot. Like, I use them, but I weaned myself off of it and I stopped. Um, but reusing them is always a great idea. Though don't laugh at me. I have an old story. One old story is that we would reuse them by washing them, letting them dry, and just, giving them a second and a third use. So, reuse the items that you have. Jars that um, we purchase nut butters and other things in can be washed clean and reused again. Um, and even with plastic wrap. there are two options I actually wanted to share and that I've used and I really enjoy using. They're called beeswax wraps. So you instead of purchasing plastic wrap, you can purchase beeswax cloths. So it's a piece of cloth that's actually treated with beeswax so that you can fold it over itself and onto glass, and it would create a seal and hold and keep or preserve items for you. So whether you want to cover a bowl or you want to cover a jar or something, so those are some options. Naya says banana peels are something I save for someone that uses it for plant fertilizer. I don't know how the process is at all. I don't know either, but composting is, again, I'm going to go back to it, it's an ideal way to help support food waste or reduce food waste. So I am going to close. I did I tell my story about the plant? Yeah, we take plastics and we wash them and dry them and reuse them for personal use, of course, for personal use. So those are some of the things that I thought I wanted to share in terms of how we could um, reduce food waste, right? And that's just in the kitchen area. There are other things that we can do, obviously, but today I just started to think about how um, we waste food a lot. Um, I think of, like I'm jumping all over, but I got a picture of beets in my head. It's like we threw away beet leaves and beet stems for so long. Well, not we, but I've seen people do it for so long, so many times, and without realizing that you can use the stems of roots. Don't throw them away. Sister Manira says my grandmother was notorious for using Ziploc bags in her containers. We used to laugh at it, but I've become my grandmother. Oh my goodness, have you? You've become your grandmother. There, girl, listen, that's some good. Yeah, grandma knows what she was doing. She knows what she was doing. Now, the thing about it is, Manira, did she take the labels off first or just cover it with a new one? We did both. I could see those bags inside out in the dish rack. Yes, that's exactly how they would sit in the dish rack, inside out. Exactly. Exactly. It's interesting because the more I think about plastic containers and our relationship with plastic, I realize that there's a reason why there's like an increasing, and has been for a long time, increasing um, rate of infertility. And there's a whole article. I guess I can share it in the details after I end this broadcast, just about the shifting rates of demographics, and what that's going to look like, and how the use of plastic is actually affecting um, population growth, right? Not so much through death, but just infertility. So I find that very, that there are these deep connections between a lot of things that we see happening or unfolding in front of us and our use of these man-made products that are not biodegradable. But I think I can't help to think about our increased use of plastics in the Caribbean, and how the use of those plastics has increased the levels of infertility and the levels of other, just unstable hormones, or hormones becoming imbalanced, because again, like plastics have what are considered phytoestrogens in them. So, and microestrogens as well. So those things can definitely affect the hormonal balance for women. Yeah. And so I have to question the reusing of plastics, um, and the constant, because washing something and putting chemical on it to clean it and then using it again, I wonder how it weakens the bonds in the plastic and then exposes some of those chemicals in the plastic to the food, just something to think about. Um, yeah, y'all are back on the dish rack thing. Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. That is, that's exactly what they look like. And some of them would have blue labels, and the blue labels would be peeling off and falling off because they were used so many times. But I want to close. I appreciate you all coming on and spending the time, those of you who are here. I know we are all in the middle of our work day, but it's always good to touch base and catch a laugh, or, share our knowledge with each other, share our stories with each other. So peace and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay strong, stay focused, do the thing, because, that's what we do. We do. Peace, everyone. That's funny.